All right, so this is lesson 5 that was presented in class on Tuesday, February 9th. We started with our opening and learning targets, and the majority of class was spent on a close read that we read and discussed together as we completed the note catcher that was due at the end of class. And then there's also the test correction opportunity for the mid-unit assessment from yesterday. If you scored less than 5 out of 6, you are eligible to do that test correction. So let's take a look at our opening. In the first half of the unit, you read and examined several informational texts and primary resources to build context about the space race, the major events of this time, and the major players who are often presented as the center of the story. In the second half of the unit, you will continue to examine the scientific, political, and social context of the space race through texts that present an argument about this historic time period. Learning targets for today. I can determine the meanings of words and phrases as they are used in a text about the space race, including technical meanings. I can determine the author's purpose and point of view in a text about the space race. I can determine the central ideas and how they are conveyed in a text about the space race. The next part of the assignment is called close read, and everyone should make a copy of this note catcher, and we worked through this together. So this is a close read on the text called "This is How the Space Race Changed the Great Power Rivalry Forever." And so this document is 5 pages long with questions in boxes throughout. So we read and discussed this entire text in our class today. And so we identified key vocabulary definitions. We started with tipping point as the point at which things greatly change. Cold War, a rivalry between two countries that does not use weapons, tense or cold relations. And then it asks, what does the final sentence of the paragraph tell the reader about space and the Cold War? That final sentence says, dominance over space and the race to outdo one another became a matter of pride for both the US and USSR. We said that the space race was an important event of the Cold War and how it played out, and winning was important. A couple more paragraphs about the firsts in the space race throughout the 50s and 60s. And we had some key vocabulary here: intercontinental, meaning between continents; national security, keeping a country or nation safe. What connection do these paragraphs make between the space race, technology, and national security? We talked about how technological advancements in space exploration were linked to technological advancements with weapons, and therefore the connection was made to national security. If you can do that, then you can probably do this, and that's scary. Then we had the zeal the US and USSR had to outperform one another, proved quite beneficial to the progress of science. Zeal meaning passion or enthusiasm, that their competition with one another really benefited science because they kept trying to outdo one another. When the human race ventured into space, it was a paradigm shift moment, meaning a mindset change or a new way of thinking. A couple paragraphs from JFK's speech to Congress. What was JFK's point of view toward the goals of the space race? JFK believed that space achievements were directly linked to freedom, national security, and our future here on Earth. We then have some information about how the United Nations stepped in because they saw that these two superpowers, the US and USSR, were maybe not thinking clearly, and they wanted to prevent outer space from becoming a battleground for these two superpowers. They didn't want the Cold War on Earth to turn into a hot war with weapons in outer space. So the United Nations stepped in to prevent another world war from happening, as the superpowers were so focused on beating each other. And the two nations signed the treaty to protect their own national security. Legacy, a mark in history, result or impact of the events. The author's point of view was good, that they were both cooperative with other countries. And then the author's purpose.